In the U.S., up until the late 1980s, we had a regulation in place called the Fairness Doctrine. And the Fairness Doctrine mandated that broadcast licensees, when covering controversial issues of public importance, be sure to provide multiple perspectives on these issues, to make sure that controversial issues were covered in such a way that diverse viewpoints, diverse opinions on the issues were being made available to the viewing audience. So it was sort of a manifestation of the notion that as a licensed public trustee, which is what broadcast licensees are considered in the U.S., that there be a sense of balance to how broadcasters cover controversial issues. So it was in place for many, many years. It resulted in actions ranging from, for example, President Nixon and President Kennedy having their staffs file Fairness Doctrine complaints when they felt that they were being portrayed unfairly in the broadcast news media. It resulted in controversial issues ranging from the effects of cigarette smoking to perspectives on the Vietnam War being covered in ways that always mandated that the other side or alternative perspectives be given an airing. So that's a sense of what its motivations were. Its effects became controversial as concerns arose about whether or not the Fairness Doctrine might in fact be, as we say in the U.S., having a chilling effect on speech. That is, the obligations associated with adhering to the Fairness Doctrine and the difficulties and the controversies associated with trying to follow the Fairness Doctrine to the letter may have in fact started to motivate broadcasters to instead choose to not cover controversial issues of public importance. The Fairness Doctrine didn't mandate that issues be covered. It only mandated that if they were, that they be covered in this balanced way. This notion of a chilling effect arose from the possibility that the broadcaster's response to the Fairness Doctrine was to avoid controversial issues. So in that regard, the Fairness Doctrine raised some First Amendment issues, both from the standpoint of whether or not it was inhibiting citizens' abilities to access information, the likelihood they would receive information on controversial public issues, but also in terms of the extent to which it was imposing speech requirements on broadcasters that were perhaps more burdensome than was appropriate. But what oftentimes gets lost in the discussion of the Fairness Doctrine is that, in fact, it was upheld by a 5-4 vote by the Supreme Court as constitutional. Yet it was years later eliminated by the FCC, but not on First Amendment grounds, more on grounds related to its possible chilling effect. So from a First Amendment standpoint, the Fairness Doctrine technically is still a valid policy. And there have been, over the years, various points in time where there has been discussion of reinstating the Fairness Doctrine. It's a possibility that theoretically still looms. But to this point today, we no longer have it based on concerns about how it affected the overall speech environment.